The data that was extracted from the data portal shows all of the data from the emergency department utilization and mental health shortage scenario. Using Microsoft Excel, this data will be summarized graphically to better understand if there is an association between the health professional shortage areas and a few clinical outcomes, including hospital readmission rates and rates of preventable hospitalizations. We are also interested in seeing if there is an association between health professional shortage areas and ED utilization rates per capita. In Microsoft Excel, we will generate scatter plots and bar plots to evaluate if any association exists. The first step in this analysis will be to create a new variable. In column N, enter EDPC as the column header. We are interested in constructing a variable to know the emergency department visits per the county population. In cell N1, enter the formula equals J2 divided by L2 and hit enter. This will divide the total number of emergency department visits by the total population of the county. The value returned is 0.58, which can be interpreted that this county has just over 0.58 emergency department visits per person. To populate this formula for the entire column, simply double-click on the bottom right corner of the cell N2. Now let's get an idea about our data. First, click Insert on the top bar. And make sure that the entire data set is highlighted by clicking the top left-hand corner of the spreadsheet to highlight the entire data set, all rows and columns. Let's start by clicking Pivot Chart and click OK. This opens the Pivot Chart window. On the right-hand side of the screen in the Pivot Chart is the Pivot Chart fields. Let's drag HPSA into the Axis Categories bin. And let's drag County into the Values bin. This will give us a count of the number of counties for each of the three HPSA categories: none, partial, and whole. In the bottom left corner of the chart, click the HPSA filter box and deselect blank. Now we can right-click on one of the three bars and select Add Data Labels. You will see that there are 183 counties in the United States that do not have a mental health HPSA. There are 717 that have a HPSA that's defined as partial of the county, and there are 1,545 U.S. counties where the entire county is designated as a mental health HPSA. Okay, now let's remove the county variable from the values bin by clicking on it, dragging it, and dropping it outside of the bin. Let's drag the readmission rate field into the values bin. Notice that the software application defaults to a sum of the value of the variable, but we are interested in an average. So let's click on the field, click Value Field Settings, and select Average. Now you will see that there is an average readmission rate by HPSA category in the United States. The results show that the readmission rate for partial HPSA is slightly higher than both no HPSA at all or whole HPSA. We can conduct the same analysis for preventable hospital stay rates. Let's remove the readmission rate by dragging and dropping it out. And let's add the preventable hospital stays rate. Let's change the value field by clicking Value Field Setting and clicking Average. Let's add data labels by right-clicking and adding data labels. And so what we see here is that the average preventable hospital stay rate is 62.5 in those HPSA categories, where the entire county is a HPSA, whereas the average for partial and no HPSA mental health shortage is 55 and 54 respectively. Let's conduct one more analysis. Let's go back to our original data set in Excel by clicking the worksheet titled Population Health Utilization Mental. Let's create a scatter plot to determine if there is an association between the ED use per capita and preventable hospital stay rate. The plot can be created by first selecting the data we want plotted. So let's select the entire column F by clicking on the column header. Next, let's hold down the Control key on the keyboard and let's select column N for the emergency department per capita use rate. This should result in both column F and column N being selected. Now we can create the graph. First, click on the Insert tab in the toolbar and let's select the appropriate chart. The chart we are interested in is the scatter plot. The plot is presented by the icon shown with a graph and many dots on the graph. Click the icon and select the first graphing icon. This will automatically generate our graph. We want to add a best fit line to this graph, and this can be done by clicking the Add Chart Element tab on the top left of the screen and selecting the option Add Linear Trend Line. Once the trend line appears, the Properties menu should also appear. If it does not, click on the Add Chart Elements tab again and select More Trend Line Options under the Trend Line field. Now when the window opens, we want to check the two boxes titled Display Equation on Chart and Display R² Value on Chart. The data presented next to the trend line now shows the equation of the best fit line as well as the R² value. The R² value is a numeric indicator regarding the strength of the relationship between our variables. The value ranges from 0 to 1, and the closer the value is to 1, the stronger the relationship is. In this case, our R² value is 0.0074, which indicates a weak relationship. Because our line is trending upwards, this indicates a weak positive association. Therefore, we can see that as the percent rate of emergency department use goes up, the rate of preventable hospital stays also increases. Together, this analysis demonstrated that in counties where the population has less access to mental health services, preventable hospital stays increase. Also, there is a weak association between emergency department use and preventable hospital stays.